Hello there. Welcome to Just the Discs. My name's Brian, and we talk about Blu-rays here. And it is still July, and the Criterion Barnes & Noble sale is still going on, so I picked up a few more things. And so I just want to share with you guys what I picked up. And in some cases, I have previous versions of these movies, and I want to kind of do a comparison with the previous versions I have. So let's start with one of my favorite pickups of the month, and that is the 4K UHD of Devil in a Blue Dress, Carl Franklin's film Devil in a Blue Dress, a wonderful follow to his incredibly great neo-noir One False Move. This goes even deeper into the neo-noir territory. And it is about a gentleman by the name of Easy Rawlins, played by Denzel Washington. He is an unemployed World War II veteran, not looking great in terms of job prospects at the moment. 1940s LA, and he's at a bar, and he meets a mysterious gentleman who is looking for a woman who's disappeared, named Daphne Monet. Tom Sizemore plays the guy that he meets. His name's DeWitt Albright, and he's not a pleasant guy, but he is offering some recompense for, anything that Easy can do to help locate this woman, who is played by Jennifer Beals in the film, Daphne Monet. And he thinks she's hiding out in one of the city's black jazz clubs, and that Easy would be a good person to infiltrate those clubs and see what he can find out. So because he's strapped for money and facing house payments and such, he takes the job, and it's one of those soon finds himself in over his head kind of stories, but it is really well told. It is wonderfully written, and it is based on a novel by Walter Mosley, who's actually interviewed on this disc. But it's just really classy stuff, but dangerous. It has that sense of the dark side of things that Easy sort of starts to fall into once he begins this investigation. There's corruption, there's some higher power kind of stuff in the city that he's getting involved with, and these are people that are not afraid to make people disappear, to not cause problems for them. So it's a really compelling story featuring a really great cast. Like I mentioned, Tom Sizemore, Jennifer Beals, Maury Chaykin, and a standout performance by Don Cheadle in this movie as the character Mouse, who is this sort of hoodlum type that Easy is, friends with, that he ends up involving in this whole business because he needs some help, because he's in over his head. And Mouse is a guy who's used to running in this sort of more underworld type, capacity. And he is a guy who's not afraid to pull the trigger, not afraid to kill people, and has killed people. And it is an absolute stunner of a performance by Don Cheadle, a true career-making, breakout for him. And he just absolutely killed it. So I really love this movie. It looks fantastic in this new 4K UHD presentation, which of course is approved by director Carl Franklin. And as always, I love that Criterion involves the director and or cinematographer when doing these new scans, these new transfers. But it looks wonderful. The colors are a little muted overall, but that's a stylistic choice. But in general, the detail and the production design and everything about the movie looks better in this 4K edition. Now, I'm going to go through briefly The last version of this I had was this version from Indicator in the UK. This is a Region B lock disc. There was a version from Twilight Time, which is now out of print, that I think shared a couple of these features, but I don't remember them. But I can tell you which features on this disc are shared by this one and the new stuff it has to offer, okay? And basically, the bottom line is everything is here, except for one minor change. You're getting everything that you get on this very nice Indicator Region B lock Blu-ray, okay? So I'll talk about those features. Now, there is an audio commentary from Carl Franklin. He does a fantastic job with audio commentary, just very thoughtful, goes into great detail about all kinds of different things. Like, I can't even remotely begin to summarize everything he touches on in this commentary. I think it's from 1998, right around the DVD release of the movie, so it's old, but I find it's just as fresh as ever in terms of what he has to say. A lot about, the story, the production design, the actors, his philosophies about filmmaking. It's really, really great stuff. He's a wonderful gentleman, and I enjoy his commentaries a lot. So that's on both discs, okay? Then you get, and I'm going to go through the stuff that's included in both, and then I'll tell you the new stuff. So you get an onstage conversation between Carl Franklin and film historian Eddie Muller, recorded at the 2018 Noir City Film Festival in Chicago. That's a 26-minute conversation. I'm a big fan of Eddie Muller. I'm a big fan of, how he approaches noir, and it's a great chat. I'm going to say that a lot in this video because you've got a lot of great conversations happening on this disc and on some other discs. But so that's included on the Indicator disc. The screen test for Don Cheadle is included. However, one minor caveat. On the version that's on the Indicator Blu-ray, they have gotten Carl Franklin to record a real quick introduction to the screen test. So it's like a minute and a half, minute 40. It's cool to have it, but it's not essential. Like, you don't need it to set up the tape. It's a tape audition. It's Don Cheadle and Carl Franklin off screen. So you don't have to have it. So my point being is you lose that minute and a half, but you still get the same audition as you do on the Indicator. So that's fine. Okay, so you have those things, all right? Now the new stuff. You have a new conversation between Carl Franklin and Don Cheadle. That's 37 minutes. Great conversation. Basically just the two of them sitting in director's chairs against a black background. That's, I think, sort of the MO of Criterion for some of these conversations. Same thing for the next one I'm going to talk about. But yeah, just wonderful to hear, Carl talking. They're just sort of catching up. It's like two old friends catching up. And it's great to hear, him go through with Don, like, how did the project get to you? Like, what's your memory of it? And, there's a great story behind that I'm not going to give away because I really think folks should check it out on this disc and listen to what they have to say. But all kinds of things covered, specific little stories from the set, memories from the set, and just a really wonderful conversation between director and actor talking about that stuff and their craft and, just two friends. Really, really enjoyable stuff. Like, I really dug it a lot. 37 minutes. And then additionally, the other new feature here is a new conversation between Walter Mosley, the author of the book the film is based on, and novelist and screenwriter Attica Locke. And this is 25 minutes. Another delightful conversation, which opens with a really nice moment with Attica thanking Walter for opening the door for young black writers like herself. She says, I owe my career basically to you. And he's like, oh, that's too much. But it's really great to hear him talk about that, talk about coming up as a writer, talk about his influences, and his writing and storytelling in general. It's a great, great chat. Another one that Criterion has done a wonderful job including in this disc. So overall, big thumbs up on Devil in a Blue Dress from me on the 4K UHD, which you can pick up at 50% off right now, $25, and looks great. Okay, now some more obvious stuff. I had to get Raging Bull. It's one of those movies that I have a very complicated relationship with because I adore the filmmaking, I adore the performance, I adore Martin Scorsese. I think he's, top 2 or 3 filmmakers for me of all time. I love his stuff. But the movie is difficult to watch. It is a tough story about a man who is incredibly self-destructive and who sabotaged himself and his success. So it's a tragic story, obviously. And so it's not one that I enjoy coming back to a lot because it is so powerfully rendered. But the filmmaking is so spectacular, and it does look fantastic in this new 4K. I gotta say, the black and white detail, it's one of those where I was just like, I can't not get a Marty movie in 4K. I gotta have it, Interestingly, it's got, of course, an incredible cast, like Devil in a Blue Dress, but it's got De Niro, Joe Pesci, Kathy Moriarty, Frank Vincent, John Turturro, Frank Adonis, Marty's dad, Charles Scorsese. I mean, it's a deep, deep bench of a cast, and it is a really remarkable story of a boxer and sort of, what he went through to get to a certain amount of success and how he sabotaged that on a lot of levels, and like I said, that's the part for me that's kind of hard to watch, is him continually sabotaging his personal relationships, his professional relationships. He's just a tough character, to render dramatically, but it's done really, really well. And I know it's a very personal film for Martin Scorsese. I know that he brought a lot of his own personal sort of experiences into the things where he could. Scenes where like Jake LaMotta and his wife are arguing in a tenement apartment and somebody's yelling in from the alley outside, and just how you could hear those arguments in the small buildings, and just how certain arguments were very much like the kind of arguments his parents got in when he was a kid. Things like that, he really brings it in, and that's a very personal touch. But the filmmaking is just truly next level for him in terms of all the techniques he brings to bear on this, the editing, the slow motion, the general cinematography stuff, the improvisational nature of the narrative of the movie itself, and how, Thelma Schoonmaker talks in this commentary, by the way, which has been available before, which I thought hadn't been available since the Criterion Laserdisc. It's Scorsese and Thelma Schoonmaker talking, one of the first commentaries I ever heard in my life from the university library where I went to school. They had the Taxi Driver Laserdisc from Criterion, and they had the Raging Bull Laserdisc, and I was able to record those onto VHS tapes. And I watched those and listened to the commentaries, and those were my first commentaries, and it basically spoiled me for commentaries for my entire life because they're so, so good. But Thelma Schoonmaker's talking in the commentary about how so much of the film is improvised and how that made it very difficult in editing to create certain things and to maintain certain continuities and stuff like that. So it's really neat to see what they were able to do. I mean, Thelma Schoonmaker, truly one of the great editors of all time, obviously. And this is a really great example of how well she and Marty could put together a story. And they talk about things they changed, things that were different and versus the final version. So I love that commentary, and I don't want to get too carried away about it, but it's really one of the best commentary tracks I've ever heard in my life about a film and the filmmaking and the choices that he made. And yeah, Marty's commentaries are truly some of the best stuff. Anyway, so this, of course, is a new digital master approved by Scorsese with 2.0 surround DTS HD. It has 3 audio commentaries, and I'll tell you, a lot of the stuff on this disc is actually on this old MGM Blu-ray. And in fact, there's like 4 items on here that aren't included here. However, this does have some new stuff, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And the new stuff is great, so it's obviously worthwhile. But 3 audio commentaries, the Marty Scorsese, Thelma Schoonmaker commentary. Then there's a director of photography, Michael Chapman, whose cinematography is off the charts great in this. Producers Robert Chardoff and Erwin Winkler, casting director Sis Corman, music consultant Robbie Robertson, Actors Teresa Saldana and John Turturro, and sound effects supervising editor Frank Warner. And then boxer Jake LaMotta and screenwriters Mardik Martin and Paul Schrader on the third track. And it's really a great group of commentaries on just put together. There's so much great stuff and great, things you can glean about filmmaking, things you can glean about storytelling in general, and it's just a listening to those three tracks will satisfy your filmmaking, mojo for a long time, I'll tell you. So those are great. Those are on the other disc. There's Fight Night, a making of, basically feature-length documentary featuring Scorsese and key members of the cast and crew. That's just a general making of, which is great as well. Like I said, included here. Then you have an interview with Jake LaMotta from 1990, 6 minutes, also included here. Let's see, a program from 2004 featuring veteran boxers reminiscing about LaMotta, also featured here. And then you have 3 short featurettes highlighting the collaboration between Scorsese and De Niro. You have Marty and Bobby, that's 13 minutes. You have Marty on Film, 10 minutes. That's him talking about filmmaking. It's more than just this film, which is great. De Niro on Acting, which is 15 minutes, also great. So that's all the stuff that's included on this. Then in addition to that, you have on this, you have something called the Bronx Bowl, which is a behind-the-scenes featurette. De Niro versus LaMotta in the ring, comparing the two. And LaMotta defends the title in a vintage newsreel footage, and Kathy Moriarty on Johnny Carson in 1981. Those are all included here, and those are not included on this. However, this has a new television interview with Kathy Moriarty and the real Vicky LaMotta, who she plays in the film. That's 8 minutes. It's from Belgian television, from 81 as well. So that's new and very cool. Then you have some really wonderful new video essays, one by film critic Jeffrey O'Brien and the other by film critic Sheila O'Malley, on Scorsese's mastery of formal techniques and the film's triumvirate of characters. And they are 25 minutes and 18 minutes, respectively. Both great. Both incredibly wonderful additions to this version of the film, or Blu-ray set, and not found anywhere else. So you have that new interview, and you have those 2 essays in addition. So those are pretty good, I gotta say. And then you have essays by poet Robin Robertson and film critic Glenn Kenny included in the booklet, which are excellent as well. So overall, I still think it's worth it, even though you're getting a lot of that stuff on here. If you wanted to pick up a cheap Raging Bull Blu-ray, I'm assuming this isn't that expensive anymore. Maybe it's out of print. I don't know. You can get a lot of what's here. Obviously, you won't get the same image quality, which is what I really bought this for, and I'm happy I did. So that is the 4K of Raging Bull, my second pickup. And my last pickup, going Scorsese again with The Last Waltz, his wonderful documentary that encapsulates and covers the final concert by the band. And it is another new 4K digital restoration approved by Scorsese with 5.1 surround DTS master audio track, supervised and approved by musician Robbie Robertson, which is cool. And I mean, just so you know, like, this is a documentary that intertwines footage of the band's incredible farewell tour with probing backstage interviews and featured performances by people like Eric Clapton, Bob Dylan, Joni Mitchell, Van Morrison, Dr. John, Ringo Starr is there, Mavis Staples. It is Emmylou Harris. It is Neil Diamond. It is quite a spectacle, and one of the great concert films of all time, ultimately. And so it's a really wonderful film, like one of my favorite music documentaries ever made, one of my favorite concert films ever made. I mean, obviously your mileage will vary if you don't like the music of the band, but I do like their music quite a bit, and so it really was nice to get this in a 4K and the first edition from Criterion. This is another case where there are some carryover features from the previous Blu-ray, and then there's some new stuff. So I'll talk about some of the new stuff, or some of the old stuff and then the new stuff. So old stuff, you get 2 audio commentaries, one from Scorsese, and I want to say Robbie Robertson, maybe members of the band, and Robertson. And then another one that's members of the production crew, performers like Dr. John, Ronnie Hawkins, Mavis Staples, and members of the band as well. So there's 2 commentaries, again, both great tracks, really good stuff. You get a documentary, about 22 minutes, on the making of this. It's sort of a look back at The Last Waltz. Okay, so that's from 2002. That was included on the previous Blu-ray. Very good stuff. Interviews with, the band, Robbie Robertson, and the whole group. Scorsese talking about it. It's nice. There is an outtake jam section. It's about 12 minutes. That's like Paul Butterfield, Eric Clapton, Dr. John, Levon Helm, Garth Hudson, Carl Radle, Robbie Robertson, Ringo Starr, Stephen Stills, Ronnie Wood, and Neil Young coming onto the stage for an impromptu, sort of informal jam session, about 12 minutes. That's on the previous version. There's an interview with Scorsese and Robertson from Canadian television from 1978. That's about 15 minutes. I think that was included on the previous version as well. And then new stuff, we get, first of all, 2 alternate soundtracks. You get the 5.1 DTS HD. Then you get the original 1978 2.0 surround mix presented in DTS HD, and an uncompressed stereo mix from 2001. Now, I believe one or both of those may have been included, but I don't think all 3 have been included on the previous Blu-ray. Don't quote me on that. But what we do get here is a wonderful new interview with Scorsese by film critic David Fear. That's about 31 minutes, and it is delightful stuff. Really good conversation again. Great to hear Marty talking about how he first came to the band, what their music meant to him, and how the sound was new for him in a way, and how he really was drawn to the fact that they were doing narrative songs, and how the themes of those songs and stories seem to come from America, that sort of Americana type thing. But like, even when he would say that different members of the band were singing the songs, it was still the same voice of the same character that's telling the story of the song. And that's just like little bits of the conversation, but it's wonderful. I love to hear Marty talk about music, because obviously music is such a big part of his filmmaking, and he's one of for me, the pioneers of bringing pop music and rock music into films and showing how amazing that can be. Putting the Rolling Stones against picture and how fantastically that plays. And the band is no exception. Obviously, they're performing live, and that's a different animal than putting, a song from an artist up against a narrative feature. But regardless, music and image to him are a really big deal, and he's just one of my favorite folks in terms of that sort of combination of things. So anyway, very nice. 4K, looks great. Has an essay by film critic Amanda Petrusic. Excuse me. And in general, it's just really a nice package. I should say all the 4Ks are set up like this. You have your 4K and your Blu-ray. That's how they look. Same thing with Raging Bull, 4K and Blu-ray, and a nice thick booklet there. And then the same thing goes for Devil in a Blue Dress. But so these are really great 4K discs, great additions to my collection. I'm glad that it timed out that these, both Raging Bull and Devil in a Blue Dress, came out this month so that I could get them at the 50% off price. But I do highly recommend them. Well worth your time. Hopefully you're enjoying the sale and, picking up some good stuff. Some 4Ks if you're into that, or some older titles. There's so much great stuff to be had from the collection that I get very excited for everybody that may, maybe just now getting into the Criterion collection. Every time a sale comes up, there's just so much great stuff that you can sort of stock up on until the next one and enjoy and go deep on the special features and enjoy the best presentation. So wonderful company. I've loved them for a long time, but it's always great to talk about their newest releases. I still get very excited about them, and I'm really happy to have them. So anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. and I'll talk to you very soon. Bye-bye.